The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful place Daniel Price had ever seen. Crystal pillars rose from the floor like frozen waterfalls, catching light from 1,000 floating orbs and scattering rainbows across the walls. Beings from 100 different worlds filled the curved seats that surrounded the central platform, their strange bodies and stranger eyes all focused on the small group of humans standing in the middle. Daniel adjusted his formal uniform and tried to keep his hands from shaking. He was 53 years old, former schoolteacher from a small town in Nebraska, who had somehow become Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy. Behind him stood his aide, Katie Morrison, a young woman with red hair and freckles who had graduated top of her class in Xena diplomacy. Next to her was Dr. Henry Walsh, the scientist who had made first contact possible, and Captain Lisa Moore, commander of the ship that had brought them here. They had traveled for 6 months to reach Varath Prime. They had studied every known species, learned their customs, prepared their speeches. Earth's greatest minds had worked for years to make this moment happen. Humanity was finally going to join the galactic community. The chamber fell silent as High Arbiter Zelveth rose from his throne. He was tall and thin, his body made of something that looked like living glass. Light passed through him in strange ways, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. He was over 800 years old, Daniel knew, and he had led the council for the last 3 centuries. The Galactic Council has reviewed the application submitted by the species known as humans, Zelveth announced. His voice came through the translation implant behind Daniel's ear, cold and formal. We have studied your history, your biology, your culture, and your potential contribution to galactic society. Daniel felt hope rising in his chest. This was it. After all the struggle, all the doubt, humanity was finally going to take its place among the stars. The application is denied. The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. He heard Katie gasp behind him. Dr. Walsh made a small choking sound. Furthermore, Zelveth continued, the Council has determined that humanity poses an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. You are hereby exiled from all Council space. You have 30 standard cycles to withdraw from the territories you currently occupy. Any human vessel detected in Council space after that time will be destroyed without warning. The chamber erupted in noise. Species that Daniel had never seen before clicked and hummed and roared their approval. The Velthari, insectoid beings with compound eyes and sharp mandibles, banged their claws against their seats in a gesture of agreement. The Nethkai creatures that looked like masses of purple tentacles pulsed with satisfied light. Even the Gorvan gentle giants, who had seemed friendly during preliminary meetings, nodded their huge heads. Daniel stepped forward, ignoring the guards who raised their weapons. On what grounds? He demanded. We came here in peace. We offered trade and friendship. We have done nothing to threaten anyone. Zelva's translucent face showed no emotion. Your history speaks for itself. Your species has spent its entire existence at war. You have weapons capable of destroying your own world. You conquered and enslaved members of your own kind. You drove countless species on your planet to extinction. You are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. That was our past, Daniel argued. We have changed. We have united our world. We have not had a major war in over 200 years. 200 years is nothing, Zelveth replied. The Velthari have been peaceful for 40,000 years. The Nethkai have never known war at all. Your species is a child playing with weapons it does not understand. The Council will not risk the stability of 1,000 worlds for the sake of one primitive species. Daniel looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of sympathy. He found none. Every face, every eye, every sensor cluster was turned against them. You are making a mistake, he said quietly. The Council does not make mistakes, Zelveth replied. Return to your quarantine zone. Build your little civilization. Live your short lives. But do not trouble the galaxy again. This session is concluded. The walk back to their ship was the longest of Daniel's life. Katie was crying silently. Dr. Walsh looked like a man who had just watched everything he believed in burn to ashes. Captain Moore's face was hard as stone. Her military training the only thing keeping her together. They passed through corridors. filled with alien beings who stepped aside to let them pass. Not out of respect, but out of disgust. Daniel heard the word primitives whispered in a dozen different languages. He heard laughter. He heard relief that the dangerous humans were being sent away. When they finally reached the ship and the airlock sealed behind them, Katie broke down completely. She sank to the floor and sobbed, her dreams of being a bridge between worlds shattered in a single moment. "What do we tell Earth?" Dr. Walsh asked, his voice hollow. "What do we tell the billions of people who were counting on us?" Daniel didn't answer. He walked to the observation deck and stood before the viewport. Staring out at the beautiful crystalline city they were being forced to leave, beyond it, he could see the stars, billions of them. Each one now forbidden to humanity. Captain Moore found him there, an hour later, still staring. "Sir, we need to plot a course home," she said gently. "The crew needs direction." Daniel turned to face her. Something had changed in his eyes during that hour. The gentle teacher from Nebraska was gone. In his place was something harder, something forged in the heat of rejection and humiliation. "Do you know what they called us, Lisa?" he asked. "Primitives, children, dangerous animals that need to be caged?" "They were wrong," Lisa said. "Yes, they were, but not in the way they think." Daniel looked back at the stars. "They think we are dangerous because of our capacity for violence. But that is not what makes humanity dangerous. What makes us dangerous is what we do when someone tells us we cannot succeed. When someone tells us we are not good enough." He turned to face her fully. "They have given us a gift, Lisa. They do not know it yet, but they have. They have given humanity something we have not had since we first reached for the stars. They have given us a challenge, a reason to push ourselves beyond every limit, a common enemy that will unite our entire species." "What are you saying, sir?" Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I am saying that we are going to go home. We are going to tell Earth what happened here today. And then we are going to build something so great, so powerful, so magnificent that the Council will beg to be our friends." He put his hand on the viewport, as if reaching for the forbidden stars. "They think they have seen what humanity can do. They have seen nothing. But they will learn. In time, they will all learn." Captain Moore nodded slowly. "I will plot a course for Earth, Ambassador." "Not Ambassador anymore," Daniel said. "Just Daniel. The Council does not recognize ambassadors from primitive species. But perhaps one day, they will wish they had." The ship turned toward home, carrying with it the seeds of something the galaxy had never seen before. In trying to contain humanity, the Council had instead unleashed it. And the universe would never be the same. 20 years had passed since the day of exile. The galaxy had forgotten about humanity. The Council considered the matter closed. Sensor networks watched the borders of human space. Patrol ships made regular sweeps. And occasionally, a bureaucrat would file a report confirming that the primitives were still contained in their little corner of the universe. No one paid much attention to those reports. Humanity was yesterday's problem. They should have been paying closer attention, Admiral. Grace Palmer stood on the bridge of the Starship Defiance, watching the construction yards of Titan through the main viewport. Saturn's largest moon had been transformed over 2 decades into the greatest shipyard humanity had ever built. Thousands of workers moved through the orbital facilities, building vessels that would have seemed like magic to the humans of 20 years ago. Grace was 61 years old now. She had been a young lieutenant when Daniel Price returned from Viroth Prime with news of the exile. She remembered the anger that had swept across Earth, the despair, the calls for war that would have been suicide. But she also remembered what came next: the unity, the determination, the quiet resolve to prove the Council wrong. Daniel had not lived to see this day. He had died 5 years ago, worn out by decades of work, but the movement he had started lived on. Before he passed, he had promoted Grace to Admiral and made her promise to finish what they had begun. She intended to keep that promise. "Status report," she commanded. Christopher Webb, her chief engineer, pulled up a holographic display. He was a tall, thin man with messy brown hair and the kind of mind that saw solutions where others saw only problems. "Fleet production is running 12% ahead of schedule. We have completed construction on another 40 vessels this month alone, And the new drive systems. Christopher's face lit up with pride. The quantum fold drives are exceeding all projections. Standard Council vessels need weeks to cross from one end of their space to the other. Our ships can do it in days. Maybe ours, if Maria's latest calculations are correct. Maria Santos. Grace smiled at the name. The young scientist had been just 22 when the exile happened. She had been heartbroken, like everyone else. But she had channeled that pain into her work. Her breakthrough in dimensional folding had changed everything. Council ships pushed through space like boats through water. Human ships simply stepped around space entirely, appearing wherever they wanted, as if by magic. The Council had no idea such technology was possible. They would learn. What about weapons? Grace asked. The plasma cascade systems are fully operational. In our simulations, a single Defiance-class cruiser can destroy a Council battleship in under 30 seconds. Their shields are simply not designed to handle the frequency variations we are using. Grace nodded slowly. 20 years of work, 20 years of sacrifice, all coming together. Earth had poured everything into this project. Other pleasures and distractions had been set aside. The entire species had focused on a single goal with a unity that never existed before in human history. The Council had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous, but not because of their capacity for violence. Because of their capacity for spite? Meanwhile, on Earth, President Samuel Green was addressing the United Human Assembly. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation, every territory, every colony in human space. They had come to hear what they already knew in their hearts. 20 years ago, Samuel said, his voice carrying across the silent room, the Galactic Council told us we were nothing. They called us primitives. They called us dangerous children. They locked us away in a tiny corner of space and expected us to fade into nothing. He paused. Letting the old anger rise in the chamber? They were wrong. Applause erupted. But Samuel raised his hand for silence. In those 20 years, we have made more scientific advances than in the previous 2 centuries combined. We have developed technologies that the Council cannot even imagine. We have built a fleet that could challenge any power in the galaxy. And we have done it alone. Without help, without guidance, without permission. He leaned forward on the podium. But we did not do this for revenge. We did not do this to conquer or destroy. We did this to prove a simple truth that the Council was too blind to see. Humanity is not a threat to the galaxy. Humanity is its greatest hope. In the crowd, Maria Santos listened with tears in her eyes. She remembered being a young woman full of dreams about exploring the universe, about meeting alien species, about being part of something greater than herself. The Council had crushed those dreams. But from the wreckage, something better had grown. After the speech, she found Grace Palmer in the corridors outside the chamber. "Admiral," she said, "I have completed the calculations for the first long-range fold. We can reach Council space whenever you give the order." Grace looked at her carefully. "Are you ready for this, Maria? Once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. The Council will know what we have become." Maria thought about it. She thought about Daniel Price, who had dedicated his life to this moment. She thought about the billions of humans who had sacrificed and worked and dreamed of this day. She thought about her own parents, who had raised her with stories of the stars that were forbidden to them. "I have been ready for 20 years, she said. Grace smiled. "Then let us begin. It is time the galaxy learned what happens when you underestimate humanity." Back on Titan, Christopher Webb was running final checks on the fold drive when his console beeped with an incoming message. It was from his wife Alina, who worked in the agricultural domes on Mars. "I heard the president's speech," she had written. "Is it really happening? Are we finally going to show them?" Christopher typed his reply with a grin. "Yes. After all these years, we are finally going out there. And when we do, the Council is going to realize they made the biggest mistake in galactic history." He looked out the viewport at the ships waiting to launch. Each one represented years of human effort, human creativity, human determination. Each one was a message to the galaxy that had rejected them. You told us we were nothing. You were wrong. And now, we are going to prove it. The first ship folded out of human space 3 days later. It vanished from one point in the universe and appeared in another. Thousands of light years away, without passing through the space in between. The Council's sensors never detected it. Their patrols never saw it. As far as they knew, humanity was still trapped in their little prison. They could not have been more wrong. The Velthary mining colony on Ket 7 was not an important place. It sat at the very edge of Council space, far from the great trade routes and political centers that mattered. 3,000 workers lived there, extracting rare minerals from the rocky soil and shipping them back to the Velthary homeworld. They lived simple lives, worked long hours, and never expected anything interesting to happen. They were about to be very surprised. Colony. Administrator Vrexton was reviewing the weekly production reports when his console suddenly screamed with alerts. His compound eyes widened as he read the data. A ship had appeared in orbit. Not arrived through normal space, not approached from any direction the sensors could track. It had simply appeared as if it had always been there.
What species?
He demanded of his sensor operator. The operator's mandibles clicked nervously. Unknown configuration. But the energy signature matches nothing in our database, except ... double quotes. He trailed off, unwilling to say it. Except what? Human, sir. The ship is human. Vrexton felt his exoskeleton grow cold. Humans. The dangerous primitives that the Council had exiled 20 years ago. The species that was supposed to be trapped on the other side of the galaxy. What were they doing here? How had they gotten here? Before he could react, his communication console lit up with an incoming transmission. A human face appeared on the screen. It was a male, middle-aged, with calm eyes and a slight smile. "This is Captain Benjamin Cole of the Human Expeditionary Force," the human said. "We are not here to attack. We are here to trade. I believe we have much to offer each other." Vrexton stared at the screen for a long moment. His training told him to refuse to report this contact to the Council immediately. To treat the humans as the dangerous criminals they were, but something in the human's voice gave him pause. There was no threat there, no aggression, just a simple offer. "How did you get here?" he finally asked. "Our sensors should have detected you long before you reached this system." Benjamin's smile widened slightly. "That is a long story, Administrator. Perhaps we could discuss it in person. I give you my word that no harm will come to your colony. We are only here to talk, against all his better judgment." Vrexton agreed. 2 hours later, he was sitting across from Captain Cole in the colony's meeting room. On the table between them were samples of human technology. Medical devices, power cells, food synthesizers, communication equipment. Each one made the Velthary's best technology look like children's toys. "This medical unit," Vrexton said, holding up a small device that fit in the palm of his claw. "You say it can cure the shell rot disease?" "And about 40 other conditions that affect your species," Benjamin confirmed. "Your doctors have been fighting shell rot for centuries. This device eliminates it in about 6 hours." Vrexton set the device down carefully, as if it might explode. "Why are you offering this to us?" "The Council exiled your species. We were part of that decision. We voted against you." Benjamin leaned back in his chair. "Administrator, do you know why the Council rejected humanity?" "Because you are dangerous, violent, unpredictable." That is what they said. Yes. But do you know what they were really afraid of? Benjamin gestured at the technology on the table. They were afraid of this. Of what humanity could become if given the chance to grow. The Council has been stable for thousands of years. They do not like change. They do not like species that might upset their comfortable order. Vrexton considered this. It was true that the Council valued stability above all else. Innovation was discouraged. New ideas were viewed with suspicion. The Velthary had not developed any significant new technology in generations, because the Council preferred things to stay the same. "What do you want in return for these devices?" he asked. "Minerals," Benjamin said simply. "Your colony extracts resources that we need for our construction projects. We offer a fair trade. your minerals for our technology. No conquest, no threats, no violence, just business. The Council will not approve of this. Council does not need to know. At least not yet. Benjamin stood and walked to the window. Looking out at the dusty landscape of Keth Savan, Administrator, in the past 6 months, we have made contact with 43 colonies across Council space. Velthari, Nethkai, Gorvin, and a dozen other species. All of them in places the Council has forgotten about. All of them struggling with problems that our technology can solve. Rexton rose to stand beside him. You are building an alliance. A network of support outside the Council's control. We are building friendships, Benjamin corrected. The Council sees species as resources to be managed. We see them as partners to work with. There is a difference. Over the following months, word of the humans spread through the forgotten corners of the galaxy. The Nethkai fishing colonies received water purification technology that ended generations of contamination. The Gorvin agricultural worlds got seeds engineered to grow in their difficult soil. Medical advances reached species that the Council had ignored for centuries. And everywhere the humans went, they asked for nothing but fair exchange. No tributes, no loyalty oaths, no submission. Just trade. Just partnership. Just respect. Maria Santos led the scientific teams that adapted human technology for alien biology. She spent her days in laboratories scattered across a dozen worlds, working with alien scientists to solve problems that had plagued their people for generations. It was everything she had dreamed of as a young woman. Everything the Council had tried to take from her. You know, she told Benjamin during one of their video conferences, this is what first contact was supposed to be like. This is what we wanted to offer the Council 20 years ago. Partnership, cooperation, mutual growth. And they rejected it, Benjamin said. Their loss. These people appreciate what we are offering. They understand that the universe does not have to be a competition where one species wins and everyone else loses. Do you think the Council knows what we are doing? Benjamin smiled. They are beginning to suspect. Their patrols have increased in the outer sectors. Their intelligence services are asking questions. But they still do not believe we could have advanced this far. They still think of us as primitives. They will learn otherwise eventually. Yes, Benjamin agreed. They will. And when that day comes, they will discover that they are no longer dealing with a single exiled species. They will be dealing with an alliance of dozens of worlds, all of them grateful for what humanity has done for them. Do you think there will be war? I hope not. We have not built this alliance to fight the Council. We have built it to show them that there is a better way. That cooperation works better than control. That friendship works better than fear? He paused. But if they force our hand, we will be ready. Humanity does not start fights, but we finish them. On Ket 7, Administrator Rexton watched a human medical team cure the last case of shell rot in his colony. Workers who had been sick for years were walking around healthy, their shells gleaming with new growth. Children who had been born with the disease were playing without pain for the first time in their lives. He thought about the Council, so far away, so certain of their own wisdom. They had called humans dangerous. They had called them primitive. They had locked them away and forgotten about them. Now he understood the truth. The most dangerous thing about humans was not their capacity for violence. It was their capacity for kindness, for generosity, for making friends in places where no one else bothered to look. The Council had created their own worst nightmare, and they did not even know it yet. High Arbiter Zelvith had ruled the Galactic Council for over 300 years. He had guided the galaxy through crises, settled disputes between ancient empires, and maintained the peace that had lasted for millennia. He considered himself wise beyond measure, patient beyond limit, and prepared for any challenge the universe might present. He was not prepared for this. The emergency session had been called at midnight Varath prime time. Council members had been dragged from their sleep, their meals, their private pleasures. The great crystal chamber was full of confusion and anger as species demanded to know why they had been summoned with such urgency. Zelvith raised his translucent hand for silence. The chamber quieted, though resentment still hung in the air like smoke. Intelligence Director Morva Zelvith said, Present your report. Orval was a Nethkai, a being of purple tentacles and nervous energy. He floated to the central platform, his body pulsing with agitated light. Honored members of the council, I bring news that will be difficult to hear. The species known as humans has broken containment. The chamber erupted. Shouts of disbelief mixed with demands for explanation. The Velthari delegates clicked their mandibles in alarm. The Gorvan representatives bellowed questions in their deep voices. Silence, Zalveth commanded. Continue, Director. Morva activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Over the past 2 years, we have detected human vessels in 47 different sectors of Council space. They have made contact with over 100 colonies. They have established trade agreements with at least 30 species. It's impossible, War Commander. Thelvin of the Velthari declared. Our patrols would have detected them. Our sensor networks would have seen them. Our patrols saw nothing, Morva replied, his tentacles writhing with distress. Our sensors detected nothing. The humans have developed a form of faster-than-light travel that we did not know was possible. They can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Our containment measures are completely useless against them. Zelveth felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. What else do we know? Their technology has advanced far beyond our predictions. Far beyond our own capabilities in many areas. Morva displayed images of human devices the Council scientists had managed to acquire. Medical technology that can cure diseases we have struggled with for millennia. Power systems that make our reactors look primitive. Weapons that our simulations suggest could destroy our best warships in seconds. Then we attack now, Thelvin growled. Before they grow any stronger, we have 1,000 warships. We will crush them. Our estimates suggest they have over 3,000 vessels, Morva said quietly. And they are still building. A direct military confrontation would be... inadvisable. The chamber fell into stunned silence. 3,000 ships. 20 years ago, humanity had barely had 100. How is this possible? There is more, Morva continued reluctantly. The humans have not merely been trading with the outer colonies. They have been making allies. Our intelligence suggests that dozens of species are now more loyal to what the humans call the Human Alliance than they are to the Council. If we move against the humans, we may find ourselves facing rebellion from within our own territories. Zelveth sank back in his throne. His mind raced through possibilities, through responses, through strategies. None of them looked promising. The Council had spent 20 years ignoring humanity. And in that time, the Primitives had built an empire that rivaled their own. Before anyone could speak again, every console in the chamber lit up simultaneously. A human face appeared on every screen, calm and composed. It was a woman, middle-aged, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Members of the Galactic Council, she said. I am President Alina Martinez of the Human Alliance. I apologize for interrupting your session, but I believe we have matters to discuss. How did you access our communications? Zelveth demanded. This chamber is supposed to be secure. Nothing is secure from us anymore, High Arbiter. That is one of the things I wanted to discuss. Lena's expression remained neutral, neither threatening nor pleading. 20 years ago, your council exiled humanity. You called us aggressive, primitive, unworthy of joining galactic civilization. You locked us away and forgot about us. You were a threat to galactic stability, Zelveth replied. Our decision was justified. Was it? Alina tilted her head slightly. In the 20 years since our exile, how many wars has the Council fought? How many species have you conquered or absorbed? How many colonies have been abandoned because they were no longer economically useful? Zelveth said nothing. The questions needed no answers. Everyone in the chamber knew the truth. In that same time, Alina continued, humanity has not fought a single war. We have not conquered anyone. We have not abandoned anyone. Instead, we have built alliances based on mutual benefit and respect. We have shared our technology freely with those who needed it. We have done everything you accused us of being incapable of. What do you want? Zelveth asked. Want? Alina smiled slightly. High Arbiter, I want nothing from the Council. Humanity no longer needs your approval or your recognition. We have built something greater than the Council ever achieved. We have partners across the galaxy who value us not because we threaten them, but because we help them.
Oh.
She leaned forward, her image growing larger on the screens. But I am offering you a choice. You can continue to oppose us. You can try to contain us again. You can go to war against us and everyone who has chosen to stand with us. If you do, you will lose. Not because we will destroy you, but because your own members will abandon you. They have seen what we offer. They have compared it to what you offer, and they have made their choice, or, Zelveth asked, or you can accept that the galaxy has changed. You can recognize that your way of doing things is no longer the only way. You can join the new order as partners rather than trying to control it as masters. Lena paused. The choice is yours. We will not force you. That is not who we are. But you should know that every day you delay, more of your members are quietly reaching out to us. The Council is already crumbling. The only question is whether you will crumble with it or adapt to survive. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in shocked silence. Zelveth looked around at the faces of the Council members. He saw fear, he saw confusion, he saw doubt. For the first time in 300 years, he had no idea what to do. We need time to consider, he finally said. This session is adjourned. As the members filed out, whispering among themselves, Zelveth remained on his throne. He thought about the decision he had made 20 years ago. He had been so certain that he was protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species, so certain that humanity would fade into nothing if given no other choice. He had been wrong. And now the entire galaxy would pay for his mistake, unless perhaps there was still a way to turn this situation around, not through force, not through containment, but through something the Council had never been very good at. Humility. The Galactic Council did not end with a battle or a revolution. It ended with empty chairs. One by one, over the course of 3 years, the member species stopped sending representatives to Verith Prime. They had found something better. Something that valued them not as subjects to be managed, but as partners to be respected. The human alliance grew every month. Species that had been part of the Council for thousands of years quietly transferred their loyalty. Roots that had once flowed through Council checkpoints now ran through human space. Diplomatic missions that would once have gone to Verith Prime now went to Earth instead. Hi, Arbiter. Zelveth watched it all happen with something that might have been sadness in a being capable of such emotions. He had ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. He had believed that his wisdom was enough to guide 1,000 worlds. He had been wrong about so many things. On a cold morning in the Earth year 2873, the last council session was held. Only a handful of species still sent representatives. The great crystal chamber, once filled with the voices of hundreds of worlds, echoed with emptiness. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved, Zelveth announced to the nearly empty room. Its functions will be transferred to the Human Alliance, which has agreed to accept all former council members who wish to join. He paused, his translucent body flickering with strange lights. I would like to say something to the humans, if they are listening. 20 years ago, I stood in this chamber and declared your species unworthy of joining galactic civilization. I called you dangerous. I called you primitive. I locked you away and expected you to fade into nothing. His voice grew quieter. I was wrong. Not just mistaken, but fundamentally wrong. I looked at your capacity for violence and saw only threat. I did not see your capacity for growth, for adaptation, for kindness. I did not understand that the same fire that drives you to fight also drives you to build, to create, to reach beyond your limits. He bowed his ancient head. The galaxy is better with humanity in it. I only wish I had seen that truth sooner. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of Chicago, Admiral Grace Palmer watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. She was 73 years old now, her hair completely gray, her body worn by decades of service, but she had lived to see this day. She had kept her promise to Daniel Price. The memorial wall beside her bore the names of everyone who had worked to make this moment possible. Daniel's name was at the top. Below it were thousands of others: scientists, engineers, diplomats, soldiers, people who had dedicated their lives to proving the galaxy wrong. "We did it," Grace whispered, touching Daniel's engraved name. "We did everything you said we would." Across the city, Maria Santos was welcoming a special delegation. The Verith themselves, Zelveth's own species, had requested membership in the Human Alliance. They had been the ones who exiled humanity. Now they were asking to join the civilization humanity had built. The lead ambassador was young by Verith standards, only 200 years old. His name was Kolveth, and he had opposed the exile from the very beginning. "I know this must be strange for you," Kolveth said, as Maria led him through the Alliance headquarters, "to welcome the people who rejected you so completely." "Ah la la la." Maria smiled. "It is a little strange, yes. But the Alliance is not about holding grudges. It is about moving forward together." "That is what we have learned," Kolveth admitted. "We watched your species for 20 years, expecting you to fade or to lash out in anger. Instead, you've built something beautiful. Something better than anything the Council created in 10,000 years. "We had good motivation," Maria said. "Nothing focuses the mind like being told you are worthless." They stopped at a window overlooking the city. Below, humans and aliens walked together through streets that had once known only one species. Children of different worlds played in parks designed for beings of all shapes and sizes. The future Daniel Price had dreamed of was becoming reality. "There is something I have always wondered," Kolveth said. "The humans could have built an empire. You could have conquered the Council by force. Your technology was superior. Your fleet was larger. Why did you choose peace instead?" Maria thought about the question for a long moment. "Because that would have proven the Council right. They exiled us because they thought we were violent conquerors who could not be trusted. If we had responded with violence and conquest, we would have become exactly what they feared." She turned to face him. "Humanity wanted to prove them wrong. Not just wrong about our capabilities, but wrong about who we are. We are not a species that destroys. We are a species that builds. We are not a species that conquers. We are a species that befriends. The Council saw our worst qualities and judged us by them. We wanted to show them our best." Far from Earth, on a space station that had once marked the boundary of humanity's quarantine zone, Captain Benjamin Cole watched ships of a dozen different species passing through what had once been forbidden space. His daughter Amy stood beside him, now a captain herself. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the Council had accepted us?" Amy asked. Benjamin considered the question. He was older now, his hair touched with gray, his face lined by years of service. But his eyes were still sharp, still curious about the universe. "Sometimes," he admitted, "I think we would have become just another species in their system. We would have followed their rules, accepted their limitations, never pushed ourselves to be more than they allowed us to be." "So the exile was a good thing?" Benjamin shook his head. "I would not say that. A lot of people suffered during those years. A lot of people died without seeing this day. Yes. But humanity has always been at its best when someone tells us we cannot do something. The Council gave us the ultimate challenge, and we rose to meet it." He put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Now the whole galaxy knows what humans are capable of. In this time we are not going to let anyone forget it." The Human Alliance continued to grow in the years that followed. It was not an empire in the traditional sense. There was no conquest, no forced membership, no subjugation of weaker species. Worlds joined because they wanted to. They joined because the Alliance offered something the Council never had: respect, partnership, hope, and at the heart of it all was a simple truth that the galaxy had learned through hard experience. Humanity did not need anyone's permission to be great. They just needed a reason to try. On the anniversary of the exile, every year humans and their allies gathered to remember where they had come from. They remembered Daniel Price, who had returned from rejection with fire in his eyes. They remembered Grace Palmer, who had built the fleet that proved humanity's worth. They remembered Maria Santos, Benjamin Cole, and thousands of others who had turned humiliation into triumph. They remembered, most of all, the lesson that had carried them through the darkness. When the universe tells you that you cannot succeed, that you are not good enough, that you should give up and accept your place, there is only one correct response. Prove them wrong. The stars belong to everyone now, and humanity would make sure they always would.